Adam Schefter. Let's go to some top stories. We begin in Buffalo.
All right, Laura, James Cook's hold-in is over. It doesn't mean he has a new contract, but at least he's back out on the practice field for now. The two sides are continuing to talk. We'll see if they can figure out a deal, but it's hard to imagine that Cook goes back out there to practice without having some type of private hope that a deal would get done. Meanwhile, not a lot of hope in Washington, at least currently, that Terry McLaurin and the Commanders would get a deal done. They continue to struggle to make progress. He is a hold-in. He has not returned to practice, unlike James Cook, and there's a disagreement here on what he should be paid, and we'll see if they can figure it out. Meanwhile, the Packers quarterback Jordan Love is having surgery on his left thumb to repair a ligament issue. He'll miss the remainder of the preseason. The Packers believe he is expected to be ready for week 1, which is good news. And this is what's so funny. Jordan Love, everybody applauds him, plays, tears a ligament in his thumb. Oh, maybe you shouldn't be playing your quarterbacks in the preseason. But Joe Burrow wanted to be out there. Tua wanted to be out there. So this ignites that debate about whether or not you should or shouldn't be playing your players.
We have that debate like almost every year. We welcome you into NFL Live. So glad you're with us. You heard from Adam Schefter. Mina Kimes is here. Dan Orlovsky, you'll hear from Field Yates a little bit later on. We've got reporters across the way. You know it's almost time for the season when we're all back together, so we're getting closer and closer.
Back together again.
we already had that. Times.
That was like a month ago.
That was July. Dan, we just heard this about Jordan Love. It's his non-throwing hand. Any concerns about the Packers quarterback for you?
There's always concerns when you're getting surgery 3 or so weeks away from the start of the season. Second year in a row that there's potential missed time for Jordan because of injury, so that has my attention. But I think while they're saying not a concern for like the regular season, there's two things that come to mind specifically to their offense. One, this is an offense that runs the football a ton out of the shotgun, and also with like some pretty unique ball handling just because of some of like the spinner action run that they get. So how comfortable is he going to be holding the ball with different hands and kind of in some unique handoff situations? And also they throw the ball a ton from underneath the center. He's very, very good at it. So is he capable of taking those snaps and executing some of their play action, you know, with even the off-hand ball fakes?
Under center play action is where my mind
Huge.
is because it's a really important part of their offense. It's how they get to their explosives. Jordan Love was the best quarterback in football statistically in play action last year. Not Jared Goff, not Lamar Jackson. EP per dropback, it was Jordan Love. And about half of those reps were under play action. When he was in the gun, it was mostly, screens, quick hitters. Play action is under center, is how they got to their explosive plays out of play action. When you think about Matthew Golden's potential impact as a downfield threat in this offense, I think about Jordan Love turning his back to the defense, turning around, and then Golden using that 4.2 speed to get downfield. So that's something I would keep an eye on. I think they're really good at running the football out of the gun, but to your point, they do a lot of interesting handoffs. That's another thing I'd watch. But yeah, the play action is what I'm saying.
Like their play action being, I guess, dual purpose because go right or left. He's capable of faking right and going to his left. When you're faking to the right, it's more of like that left-hand grip on the ball. So how is that going to feel? You mentioned Matthew Golden. It's also just taking reps away from the chemistry and the connection with the first rounder.
Especially as a downfield threat, it's one thing to have 4.2 speed. It's another to have that translate into the field. Xavier Worthy being a great example last year where they didn't quite have the timing right on some of those downfield balls. So you really want to see with Golden early on.
Rob Domofsky, our Packers reporter, recently reported just how good Matthew Golden has looked already. So you hope that they can get that chemistry, continue to go with it. Jordan Love, by the way, top 5 in the NFL last season in completions, 20-plus yards downfield, definitely a big part of the game. Let's get to some more news out of Rams camp. You see Matthew Stafford, he's on the sideline because he's not practicing again today. The Rams had expected maybe he would practice yesterday. That didn't happen. Not out there again. It is his back that's acting up. So Lindsey Theory is out at Rams camp. And Lindsey, what is the latest going on with Matthew Stafford today?
Laura, you mentioned it. Matthew Stafford was not on the practice field, not even in street clothes. In fact, the only sighting of the Rams quarterback was him walking out the front door of the facility with head athletic trainer Reggie Scott. Sean McVay was not available to talk to reporters today. That was not a scheduled day for McVay. But when asked yesterday if he anticipated Stafford to practice today, he said he was unsure because the plan, frankly, is going astray. McVay did express a hope that he would be able to participate in individual drills, but obviously that did not happen. So the Rams plan to integrate Stafford into training camp. Not exactly going toward plan, though. Talking with folks around the building, they still have a lot of confidence. They're expressing a lot of confidence that he is going to be available for week 1. McVay, though, saying he's just going to take that one day at a time. There is something here on the Rams training camp facility at practice that is adjacent to the practice field that caught everyone's attention, though. That is the Immortal Chamber. Laura, get this. It is a chamber in an Airstream. It's red light therapy. I'm told it is purely a coincidence that this trailer is here at practice. It arrived yesterday morning. It is departing tonight. Players have been going in and out of it, including Matthew Stafford yesterday. And when they do come out, they say they feel restored and rejuvenated. That is only, again, I'm told, a coincidence. Not here for Matthew Stafford's back, but does happen to kind of be something nice to have around right now.
And that lines up that, listen, I believe you're reporting, Lindsay, but it is a little suspect either way. I noticed the license plate on that Airstream said optimize, like that. Adam, what else can you add on Stafford? We talked about this yesterday. There's some people who are not very concerned, but what exactly is going on?
Well, we have to get one of those trailers in here for us to go into.
I would love to feel
let's put one in the parking lot
in November. I would love to feel rejuvenated.
Right outside the green room or something like that. It'd be very nice to do.
Dan would be in it more than anybody else.
Absolutely, playing country music in there while he's sitting in his amoral tube. Anyway, Matthew Stafford is in a situation where, here's the issue. They thought he'd be back at practice Monday. He wasn't. They thought he'd be back at practice maybe today. He's not. At some point, there has to be some level of concern that builds up, but it hasn't yet within the organization. They remain quietly and privately confident that he's going to be ready for the regular season opener against the Houston Texans. But now, we are just over 3 weeks away. He's 37 years old. It's a back. Backs linger. I think it's problematic, but again, I'm just telling you, they have not been concerned, and they have maintained all along that if there were a game this week, Matthew Stafford would be out there and he would be playing.
Can I jump in real quick and just ask a question? Is it more of a function thing or a pain tolerance thing?
Maybe a little bit of both. I don't know.
We know, he's one of the toughest people, probably one of the toughest players in the NFL at pain tolerance, but why force that if you don't have to right now? Mina, you've certainly spent a ton of time around the Rams, once again calling the preseason games, so cool. Let's live in a world where Stafford is actually healthy, available week 1, right? What do you want to see out of this Rams offense?
I think this is important regardless, but especially week 1 against that Houston Texans pass rush. They got to be able to run the football well, and they have to get more explosive. We were talking about this before the show, running the ball. This was an issue last year. It's been an issue now for a few years. They have an efficient running game with Kyren Williams, who just got paid, but it's not explosive. Second worst in the NFL in terms of runs over 10 yards.
That's where Jarquez Hunter comes in, though, right?
And potentially Blake Corum as well.
Yeah, looked good Saturday night.
They keep drafting these back. So I think, Adam, to your point, there's a couple of things I would be curious to see if we see more of. One is going with a more committee approach at running back. And I know they just paid Kyren Williams, but sometimes you pay guys and then you try to keep them a little bit fresher by bringing in some young backs. Kyren Williams gets the most snaps of any running back in the NFL. Perhaps that might change. Again, they've drafted these 2 young backs who are potentially more, I think both Corum and Hunter could be more explosive. And then the other thing, I'm so curious to hear your thoughts on this. Sean McVay has not mixed up his personnel usage. And last year, Tyler Higbee was injured. Talk about Jarquez Hunter. Their second-round draft pick was Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon. Good blocking tight end. I know Sean McVay coveted him. I think he could take on some of those F roles that Cooper Kupp did as both a blocker and a receiver, or potentially 2 backs like Liam Cohen in Tampa, because now you have this stable of running backs. It feels like they have to mix things up to make this run game more explosive, because I think that's been kind of the missing piece in this Rams offense.
When you bring up Terrence Ferguson, when they drafted him, they compared him to Travis Kelce. Now, I don't know that anybody's dropping an album on Terrence Ferguson's podcast today, but they have big hopes for him in the future.
7 p.m., watch out. We're in mid-season form. Dan's already writing down notes after everything Mina said.
Well, I think the Rams will be a little bit of a microcosm for the NFL this year. I think we will have a year over the last 5 or 6 years, the lowest amount of 11 personnel use, meaning 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers on the field across the NFL. Because of the way that defenses now have adjusted the style of offenses, I think we're going to see bigger bodies on the field defensively to commit to stopping the run. And so then teams offensively will have to put on bigger body to block. So the Rams being one of those teams, I agree with. To your point, they were one of the worst offenses in the NFL with explosive runs last year. For a team that nobody wanted to play come to the playoffs, to your point, like 2nd and 7 sounds fun until you get to 3rd and 7. You know, if you look at the teams that had the most amount of explosive runs, 4 of the top 5 were playoff teams. And obviously the Lions, Packers, Bucks, and Ravens. Then the Cardinals were a team that flirted with it if they were able to stay healthy. So I agree in totality, explosive runs. And I think the thing that's connected to that is, as great as Matthew was last year and that offensive line, they weren't good on 3rd and obvious pass situations. So like the stress to that offensive line when it's 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 is exacerbated. His lack of, I guess, movement at times. And then also that's where Devontae's going to come on huge because they didn't really have that complementary piece wide receiver wise last year.
Puka Nacua, yeah. I mean, Puka Nacua was the most targeted receiver in the entire NFL when the Rams faced man coverage.
Right.
Having Adams there is that he is the X receiver they've been looking for. But, you know, they really have 2 elite receivers, and that's it. So they should be using a lot of 12 personnel, I think. And the last time they ranked, by the way, in the top 10 explosive runs, the year they went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you know, when it comes to explosive runs, like, I'm trying to think schematically how teams are getting to them. Like, Philadelphia did it